Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Green Team of the Legendarium, the patron spinoff of the Legendarium podcast, where we talk about the books and topics the main crew haven't gotten around to yet. I'm your host, Josh, or Cesky, and today I have with me Eradandis, the lover of short and good books.
Hey there.
And I also have with me Soulution, the man who reads a lot.
Hey there, but not as much as Chesky, the man who reads even more.
I try, but I'm not always the fastest or the best reader. So, thanks everybody. We're going to be talking about Waybound today, the 12th and final book of the Cradle series by Will White. It's been an epic conclusion. It's been an epic time reading this long book series with us. We hope you've enjoyed it as much as we have. So let's kind of just get started. Eric, I've got two questions for you. Did you like the series overall? And then how were your feelings on Waybound as the ending book?
Overall, I will say that I am glad that I read the series. It
Perfect.
had good points. The stuff I didn't like is well documented, but there were parts of it I did like, and I enjoyed the journey and I enjoyed doing it with you guys. And it opened my eyes to another genre of books, right? That I should actually pay attention to. So I appreciate that. The ending book is too fan servicey, too long, and very mediocre. Sorry.
Those are harsh words from Era, who says he only speaks truth, but I think if we looked deep in his heart, we might find some other answers there. But that's okay. Solution, how about you? How did you feel?
As the series as a whole, I love it. It's one of my favorite series. The finale, I enjoyed it. There definitely could have been better, similar to Era's thoughts, but not nearly as negative, I think. I still had a great time with it, but I do think there was quite a bit of room for improvement and chances that Will White did not take that he should have.
Okay. Okay. I'm with you guys. I really liked this series. It's always a fun time to read it and to enjoy the characters. I liked the book more than Era liked it, of course, but it's not a hard bar there most of the time for me. But I could see a couple things. I thought there were some issues that I maybe had with it. It's tough to pinpoint exactly what didn't really work for me most of the time, but I think we'll get into that. So let's talk a little bit. We'll give a quick recap. I think we're just going to go kind of all spoilery. Non-spoilery. Era thinks it's too long. Josh and Solution think it might be a bit long, but mostly good. Does that sound right for non-spoilery thoughts there?
Pretty good. I mean, it's the end of the series. Lyndon does things, and then we wrap pretty much most of the stuff up.
Yeah. Okay. So, okay, here's something. Would you guys say it was too wrapped up or not wrapped up enough?
I'll go because I know everyone wants this one too. I'm gonna say it was too wrapped up for what he was trying to do in one book. He either could have split it, or he just could have just left a lot of these little things that didn't really matter as just open ended, and then he could have done this in like 450 pages and wrapped it up that way, and then been like, oh, maybe there is going to be a series later in 10 years if he wants to come back to it in this world or not. I feel like he could have done it that way.
Okay.
So
Era, how
the
do you feel?
book was written as if it was he was given a checklist of things he had to accomplish before he got off. And it was like, did I accomplish this with X character? Yes. Check. Did I accomplish this with Y character? Yes. Check. That's how it felt like. That's what I meant when I say it's fan servicey, because I know that there were a lot of either characters or side stories or loose threads that had been hanging around the series, and each one of those parts were resolved in some way, shape, or fashion in this final book.
Okay. That's a fair thought. I can definitely see that part of it. We did close a lot of threads and possibilities, and I think
Yeah.
maybe a few more of them left open or just not explored could have been nicer.
Well, and that's just kind of like, let me go back to that, because that's actually one of the things I did like about the book is that, one, he obviously wrote the entire series with an outline or plan in mind. So
Yeah.
there are things that he did in book 4 or book 7 or book whatever that are referenced and that he uses in later books, and that he definitely references again in Waybound, either directly or by implication. So that is something I do want to give him credit for.
Okay, that's perfect. No, I like that. I'll give you guys just a quick recap. This is going to be kind of the most bare bones recap you've ever heard. But at the end of the last book, they have taken out the Silent King. They are formulating their plan and they're going into their training montage. They go into their training montage. Lyndon is very powerful here. He's kind of pushing his friends through Dread God training to, survive being around them because they're just so oppressive. He keeps getting called out to fight with Reagan Shen multiple times to protect Sacred Valley. They fight the Thundering Dragon, or the Weeping Dragon first. They kill him. Then they fight. It becomes a three-way fight between the Monarchs, which one is it, you guys?
The last two Dread Gods?
Yeah, it's between the
Yeah.
last two Dread Gods, the Bleeding Phoenix and the Wandering Titan,
Yeah.
and Lyndon with a couple other helps, with Yaren and them helping and supporting behind the scenes, right?
Yeah.
And then they fight, they kind of break, they fight some more. They do end up killing all the Dread Gods. Now, correct me if I'm wrong, they do kill all of the Monarchs. I don't believe any of them choose to ascend, aside from
Incorrect.
the
Northstrider.
Northstrider ascends, yes.
Yeah,
Okay.
Northstrider ascends.
I have a different issue talking about Northstrider in a few minutes, and I'll get to that.
Okay.
The main crew ascends except for Lyndon because he has absorbed too much hunger madra. He cannot ascend correctly.
Too heavy.
Time goes on, he ascends. Everybody's happy in the end, right?
Yep.
Okay. Now I'm going to when Lyndon is fighting Northstrider, you guys remember this the first time, and he gets Northstrider in his hand, and he's like, Northstrider, are you going to ascend? And Northstrider's like, no. And then it kind of cuts to a different scene. Did you guys think that Lyndon had killed Northstrider then? Or did I miss
No.
something when I was reading it?
No, I didn't
No.
think so at all.
He remember he started consuming Northstrider at that time. It talked about Northstrider breaking away. He
Okay.
asked him to ascend, so Northstrider wasn't with. If Northstrider had been in his grasp when that happened, then I would have had your same interpretation. But it was clear in the story that Northstrider and Lyndon weren't close when
Okay.
he made that.
I must
statement.
have misread that then, because in my mind, Northstrider had been Lyndon had consumed Northstrider because he refused to ascend. And then when Northstrider popped back up, I'm like, wait a minute, he was dead. You cannot bring him back like this. And then I was like, okay, I must have misread it, but I just wanted to clear that with you guys.
No, he just because he's so much of a monarch that he just consumes some of him. So normally when Lyndon consumes people, he leaves them pretty much.
Most of all of them,
But so Northstrider was still alive.
Okay, let's I've got a couple thoughts here, or
Okay.
a couple questions for you guys. Malice, what did you guys think of that? Did you think she would choose to ascend at the very end or not? I mean, she did not choose to. I kind of thought she might be pressured into it eventually.
No, I knew she was evil to the core for Mercy's character development,
Okay,
and she was gonna die.
all right. And Era, how'd you feel about Malice's
I'm
kind of continue fighting
absolutely.
and stuff?
No, she had to have died. I'm ambivalent as to who killed her and how, but the fact of her death was inevitable to me. I did
Okay.
not see a way. I did not see a way in which she could ascend.
Yeah, she was too evil for the crew to be like, oh, we're gonna let this villain stay alive because we don't want to be the ones that kill people. I don't think.
Well, but
She
she
was too
could have
evil for that.
ascended to escape them, though, and been like, now I'm semi-protected because I'm not in their immediate
Well,
sphere, right?
No,
So
she's too prideful.
there's a couple things to that. One, Northstrider. I'll give by contrast. Northstrider, even though he's clearly selfish, or Reagan Shan, clearly selfish, clearly will do things his way, and he will try to find technical ways to break his word. His word is his bond, and Northstrider's the same way. Malice, her word means nothing to her. I mean, she is as duplicitous as they come. So, I there's no way they could trust her. One, two, the whole reason for this, the whole reason they refuse to ascend, like, she can't ascend because she can't get past her reasons for not wanting to ascend. It's not in her nature to do so.
Okay. No, that's fair.
Yeah.
That's fair. I've got more to talk about if you guys want, but did you guys have anything you wanted to bring up in general about the book that we need to hit?
You go ahead, Era.
Yeah, well, let me start off with some things that I did like, because
Great.
there are some things that I thought were well done. One of the questions I had was, because we talked about how Lyndon was going to have to kill the Dread Gods. We talked about that at length in the last book. But what were going to be the consequences for that? And the one thing that Will hit on, I thought, pretty hard and pretty effectively was Solution alluded to it earlier, was the weight. There's a spiritual weight to being a dread god.
Yeah.
And I like that was one thing that I liked the way that was described and explained in the last book.
Yeah, we got hints throughout the previous book, Dread God, but in this book specifically, he gave us hints at like 20%, and then at about like 50% when he did take on the Weeping Dragon. That's when you're like, oh, Lyndon's not going to be able to ascend no matter what happens. So whatever was going to happen in this book, I was like, okay, he's whether they orchestrate everything the way they wanted to and get all the monarchs to die at the same time or ascend at the same time they kill the dread gods and they have to like a piano, like they gotta get everything all at once. He still wasn't gonna be able to descend. So I did, like, I'm with Eric, that was a cool way to do it because it's everything he wanted and he's not gonna be able to do it to get his goals.
And let me add one thing. It did leave me a question with North Strider because his Madra was a combination of blood and hunger. But hunger Madra isn't supposed to ascend, but he ascends.
I have to wonder if it's more of the quantity you have, whereas a dread god, he's kind of fused with that hunger, and it's become more of a part of him. But that is something to think about. I'd have to
Yeah.
look into that a little more.
Hmm.
I liked the weight. I liked that. They kind of take care of everything, and all of his friends have to ascend immediately. They barely get any time to be like, hey, I love you. See you later. We're gonna go. It's more like, hey, they're done. We gotta go. Bye. See you later. And they're just like immediately removed. And then Linda's just like, okay, well, I guess I'm just gonna keep doing stuff for quite a while.
Hang
You know,
out. Yeah. Yeah.
I like how my boy Zeal, he had his redemption arc, so I like that. So
He
he's the
did.
right?
guy.
Yeah.
That was a good
Mercy,
So
redemption arc where he
Mercy had
kind
some
of
fun. I
comes to
like
himself.
Mercy's too. Um,
I know we all kind of were rooting for Mercy to die or not ascend.
I
That didn't
didn't
happen,
honestly. I
obviously.
didn't think. I thought she was gonna die in the Malice fight. I'm happy that Little Blue and Orthos both got massive power ups. Felt a little unearned for some of them, but I did at least like that Orthos is he's trying to improve and he's no longer afraid of staying as a turtle, and he's doing his thing.
I liked part of it kind of shows when we're talking about Orthos training, and
Hmm.
Orthos is like, "Hey, I need to get faster, stronger because I can't keep going at this pace to keep up with you and to help you, right?" And so
Yeah.
he does the shortcut with the Hunger Madra that Lyndon does, where he kind of absorbs a dragon and then that boosts him, right? But I
Hmm.
like Lyndon's perspective there, that Lyndon, and I think you can see it throughout all the books, where Lyndon is like, yeah, Orthos is just a little different than me because Orthos took one dragon and then was like, man, I got to recover. I got to relax. I got to get back to myself.
Yeah.
And Lyndon was like, I would have been asking for another one immediately. You know what I mean? I would have taken that one and it sucks and I get through it, but then hit me with another one immediately so I can just get as fast as possible. Just kind of showing that mindset that Lyndon's always had. Even in the first book, he's in the first book he has no power. He's like, how can I get more power? I'm gonna go search for this fruit. I'm gonna try this, and he never stops trying. You know what I mean? He could have given up when he was and at any time before that, or taken it slower, and he never does.
oh no, you're right. That's actually that's one of his defining features. We talked about this before, but you're right. It's one of the central themes of this story that nothing is ever enough for him. He's just the type of person who whatever he has, that's nice. I want more. That's
Yeah.
that's who he
It's
is.
and it's fun to read about. Like it fits a progression fantasy series very well. And I'm always gonna love this series for that. Because Lyndon's just it's just great like that.
Though to be fair, most people who are like that aren't don't have Lyndon's kind of personality. They're not nearly that kind
No.
or generous.
No, no, no.
So
They're not
No, they
humble. No, they're not humble or nice at all.
yep. But can I talk about one or two quibbles I have with the book? I think
yeah.
it'll kind of help talk about the book more generally.
Yeah.
So if I had to give an overarching kind of like where I was just kind of gritting my teeth throughout the book was the lack of stakes. I just did not
Mm.
feel any pressure or stakes at all. And he did the one thing that we all talk about as a trope that we do all the time, and he did it this time, and I'm like, "Ugh, fine, you do it once, that's great. He did it like 8 times. It's we don't have time. We lack time. Everything's going to happen in 1 second, but I can accelerate the way I think to 1,000 times as fast as a second so I can perform all my needed. So he used that lack of time constantly as a way to kind of make you feel pressure. I never felt it, and it just every time I saw it, I was just like rolling my eyes, gritting my teeth, and kind of getting through that. So I don't know how you guys felt about it.
Well, it's a question of scale, right? When we started the first book, Unsold, we have space level scaling past Cradle. And now that we've gotten the entire crew up to this level, and Lyndon is technically like above a monarch in this book, he's literally fighting multiple monarchs at once and dread gods, to where we're no longer at a coherent way to like tell an action scene because the way you do things has to be involving fate and muddying fate, but yet more than the other person who can also read fate. It just got very confusing, and I feel like this is a good way you need to end this series before it gets too much like this and do a restart and a refresh. Like if he was gonna do another series in the cradle outside the cradle, but in the cradle verse, then it would be cool to have them not have to worry about fate as a part of the action sequences. I felt like it was like near the upper tier and it needed to do a reset because it was getting confusing.
I think I can understand what you're saying, Era. There is definitely kind of a lack of stakes. It's more of a they're going to accomplish this, but the real question is how are they going to accomplish it rather than can they or will they? And that leads to different stakes maybe. But I think this is kind of just that general progression slash fantasy trope where you have the first bad guy and then the next bad guy has to be stronger than them. And then now we're up to the point where we're fighting the strongest on the planet, the monarchs and the dread guards at the same time. And it could have done worse, but I agree. Some stakes, something else could have been more impactful if we'd had something to stakes. Now, did you feel like you had some stakes with Suriel and Osriel? Because I was really afraid that Suriel was going to die, but then that was turned on its head, and that Osriel, sacrifices himself, and then she's able to be like, "I trusted you. You brought me back. You did it." But I did, he wasn't. What was your thoughts?
So that's actually a good point. So going back to the whole time thing, like it's even towards the end, like he, I could have to kill the Bleeding Phoenix, but then the Wandering Titan has to die within 1.8 seconds of the Bleeding Phoenix's death. Otherwise, I'll be consumed by the Hunger Madra. Not really explained, but okay. And but he accomplishes it. Great. You're right. Like with Suriel and Osriel, I did feel like there was a little bit more stakes because you weren't sure who's going to bite the bullet, but you kind of figured it might have been one of them, which led to kind of the corollary thing. We all talked about how we were expecting someone to die in this book. Nobody died.
Yeah, I wanted somebody to die. Kill your
Yeah.
I mean,
darlings.
Well, there's a lot of
you know,
monarchs that died, but none of our favorites that
Yeah.
died, right?
Nobody
Yeah.
we cared about.
I
Yeah.
mean, so, but no, you're right. Like I actually felt more. I had a greater level of interest in what was going on in the space part
Mhm.
because everyone was on a roughly equal level given Osriel's handicaps.
Right.
So, I was kind of more interested to see where that would go because everybody was on relatively equal footing.
And I did like that he hid his scythe underneath um his worst enemy's feet. He's
That's
Yeah,
basically
his
like
hilarious.
rival. That was the best. I cheered at
he's
that
like
one. That was
Hilarious.
so good.
and I love it. He calls for it and he's like, come, and it reverberates out and everybody's like, oh, something's going down, but nobody knows. And then, it pops up and he's like, yeah, I hid it under your feet because you'd never look there for it. And he's like, I hate you so much.
It was so good. That was such a good moment.
One of the things I do have a quibble with though
Hmm.
is it was clear throughout the series that Osriel wanted to get a new icon, right?
Oh, I
And
think
then
that's
Yeah.
yeah.
then it was referenced he wanted to get the joy icon. Malice gets the joy icon.
No mercy.
Mercy, I'm
Yeah,
sorry.
mercy.
Mercy gets the joy icon. And I'm sitting there going, he's got to say something. He's going to say something. He will absolutely. This is too low of a hanging fruit for him to say something. He doesn't say jack. He doesn't say anything. I'm like, that was frustrating. I'm sorry. That was just
That's
That's fair.
fair.
frustrating.
I think yeah, that was a missed opportunity there. I felt
That's
like it
fair.
was a little. I don't know. I want to say it was almost a little rushed, but I think it was just the way he paced the end, where he's now gonna have Osriel take his old crew back together while Lyndon's doing his own thing until it's time. So I don't think he wanted to spend too much time with us having Osriel and them together.
All right, I've got a question for you guys. If you're gonna manifest an icon, what icon do you manifest? Now
Chaos.
you can
Oh, sorry.
you can answer for yourself, or you can choose to have us answer for you.
Oh, sorry, I ruined it.
Oh, everybody! I want us to answer for everybody else. So
Okay,
Okay.
all right.
because we're all gonna pick something cool we want for
I'll
ourselves.
go
That's
first
not fair.
then. I'll go first. Era, I
Oh
love you,
God!
but
But
come on.
but
I
What?
think
Yeah, I'm
your
curious. He's
if
got it. What do you
I think
say?
you would have the argumentative icon if that's possible.
Oh, that's good.
Not
I
in a
was gonna
bad
go with
way.
curmudgeon.
Not in a bad way. Like, but
Yeah.
you have this ability to argue and to deliver a point and to I think that just fits you, right? So I think that would be your icon. Now
wait,
Soul
but
is
how would an argument icon would be like a mouth?
sure.
No, I think it would
Or
be
it
more
would be
like
like
a
it
speaker
reminds me more
icon
of a debate icon, right? Like, or like a
Gotcha.
podium, right?
with a
Um,
gavel. Be like,
yeah,
ah.
I like it with the gavel. It would be a
Okay.
Yeah.
gavel. Yeah,
Okay.
Okay.
yeah.
Okay.
So I hope that doesn't offend you. That's
That's
what
fun.
I love it. Soul is harder for me. Soul, I don't know. I'm gonna have to think about this. Soul. Why don't you pick up
Well,
Soul?
I
Why don't
already
you go and
mentioned
guess ours?
Era's the curmudgeon icon. Yeah. Um, that face right there, readers, sorry, listeners, he's making a face. It's gonna be like a guy just kind of doing a little nose wrinkle at you, like, can't believe you done this. One of those. Yeah, it's just a face,
That's
like a smiley face, like little wrinkle. Um, Chesky's also tough. You see, I can't give him the joy icon, but I can give him the reading icon, and it's gonna be a big ol' eyeball, and it's got a little book in the iris, and that's what he's got. Cause man, this
oh,
No,
guy likes to read.
no. It's gonna be
No?
like it's gonna be the Matrix computer thing, kind of falling, like the
Oh,
whole falling thing.
yes. Yeah,
That's
inside
gonna
the
be his icon because he's
that's
reading
perfect.
everything so
Yeah.
fast. Yeah, that's
you
100.
guys are
That's 100.
Yeah,
hilarious.
just book titles just going down really
Yeah,
fast.
yeah. And you're gonna have like a surfer icon because you're always kind of like chill, kind of relaxed. You
Oh,
have
I
like that
like
surfer
that.
bro dude with a surfboard, kind of. That's gonna be your icon
Alright, the
because you're
relax
just always
icon, could do
very
that.
kind of like you're very kind of even keeled always, right?
Is it just a hammock? It's just hanging the
There
hammock?
you go.
Yeah,
There you go.
okay,
Yeah.
cool.
I'll get on airs a little bit. I'll just I think I liked your chaos thought for yourself though, Soul, because you do read. You'll pick a book and you'll go for it. Then you'll go for a different book, and I'm like, that's a weird book. That's kind of out there. And then you'll just kind of get to them, but not in a bad way. So, all right, there it
Mm,
is. I thought you guys would give me joy, but I appreciate the reading icon as well. That
yeah,
makes me happy. So,
Yeah.
let's
you earned it.
do.
So
Oh,
look,
Eric, what's up?
so no, the other thing I want to bring back on Waybound, because the
Hmm.
other thing that this really bothered me, and maybe you guys can help me through this.
Okay.
Like the more it's well documented and it's throughout the entire series that the more hunger you have, the harder it is to control. And the more
Right.
it kind of consumes or dominates your personality. And it's a struggle and it's a fight or whatever. Name me one time we got like where Lyndon had any more than, oh, may I have to think about this for a second. No, I'm okay. I mean, he had all the hunger in the world contained within him, and it was nothing. Like there's no struggle at all. He was, all right, I'm just gonna chill on Cradle for a year or so. No big whoop, and I'm out. I mean, there's just
Okay,
no
I
struggle with
can
that.
I can try and alleviate a little bit of this. At the end, when he has kind of all of it, there's also no monarchs to keep pushing that. And so since they kind of created it, it could lose its edge potentially,
Yeah, I think it
as
was a
much.
balance thing. Yeah.
But I think it also just speaks to Lyndon's, dedication and his I'm going to be moving forward and I've got the self-control to do this. Like I said earlier, when he is absorbing things, he has to go through that pain of diverging people's memories and kind of go through the
Mhm.
the shock of that. He is able to just say, "Give me another one. Give me another one. Give me another one." In with that mindset of just like, "No, I can handle this." I think it just was that he was never really too much at risk because of his personality for it
Yeah.
versus maybe if Yaren had it or if somebody else had that, it might have been more detrimental to them.
I would have liked
More
I would
conflict
have
with
liked to have seen some because look, his
that. Hmm.
the parts of the book that I liked throughout the entire series was where Lyndon had to struggle, where he had to kind of like do something besides use his brute force to win stuff, right? Underlord, which is one of the books I liked, where he kind of came up with creative gadgets and designs, and he never he never gave up to what you were talking about earlier, right? But
Yeah.
he was always fighting at a disadvantage, and there was always a struggle. The struggle was external, but he was always struggling to succeed. To me, that's where I enjoyed Lyndon the most, right? And here I'm like, there's a golden opportunity to see Lyndon, who has really not, I mean, the external struggles were there, but I never really felt there was much stakes in his external struggles. There's an opportunity for him to have a really titanic internal struggle between all this hunger Madra, which completely took over the slumbering wraith, right? But it didn't take him over. And I would have liked a little bit more on that.
I agree. It was a little confusing. I thought Lyndon was gonna die because when he dies, he would come back because he's still a dread god, and the dread gods come back when they die. So I was waiting for the finale to be like, okay, he got everybody out. Now he's gonna die, and then in 10, 20 years, he'll be reborn at a much lower level along with the other dread gods where it's controllable by the rest, and then he can ascend then. That's what I thought we were gonna get. And then we got the hangout session instead.
Interesting. All right, I'm gonna give you guys a slight hot take from me. It's not.
Oh,
I don't think it'll be a hot take to Era or to you, Soul, maybe, but to other
okay.
Cradle listeners, I think it'll be a hot take. I wish that he had ended the book right after Lyndon ascends, and you realize that Lyndon has ascended to the Void instead of to the Abaddon, and
That
it's
would have
just
been
like,
cool.
and Lyndon's just like, oh, I'm at the Void, and nobody else knows that he's, from the Abaddon, and then it just kind of cuts. And so the next series or next thought in your mind is like, okay, now he has to get back. You know what I
Yeah.
mean?
Yeah, I like that. That'd have been cool. I will say I did like Fury with the little cameo, but I do agree that getting that epilogue does put a pin in it, and I feel like it's or like a bow on this thing, and that he's not trying to go back with Lyndon and the
Well,
crew. Like
I think
maybe
he
it'll be
needs to
his
just be
kid.
done with Lyndon
Yeah.
and them, unfortunately. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, it does sound like he's done with him, even though it sounded to me, and maybe I misread it. It sounded to me like the epilogue was a projected future. It wasn't the actual future, because the way
Oh,
as I
Okay.
understood it, it was I can't remember whose mind construct was like
Right.
doing a
The
probability future. It was like
information requested.
yeah.
right, it was the
Okay.
information
Yeah.
requested type of thing, and then that popped up. So I think that was a predicted future, but I'm not sure it
Right.
was the
The
actual
future.
future. Yeah.
Cool.
Um,
All right, you guys.
okay.
Did you have something, Soul?
No, I did like this book though. I don't wanna be the guy who like harped on it too much. This was a lot of fun. I did like to see the end. The fights were really cool. Zeal doing the shield thing with that was pretty cool. He got his redemption moment and you get to kill the weeping dragon, which we did predict. We did pretty good with our predictions actually. I will say that. Like we hit a lot of them except the whole people dying thing.
We missed
Um
on Mercy. We missed on
yeah,
Mercy
Yeah,
pretty
we
badly.
we
that was a
whiffed on
whiff, but we did nail
Or
all the dread gods, and I think we also nailed the monarchs and who would ascend too. I
we
think we
didn't whiff
got all
on
those.
Mercy. Will White whiffed on Mercy. That's
Yes,
how.
yeah, that's on him. That's not on
That's
us.
on him,
Okay.
not us. Okay. Let's do some favorite scenes, you guys.
Okay.
Or and favorite slash least favorite if you have one that you just really irked you and you want to get it out and talk about it. Do you guys want me to go first?
Yeah, you go
Sure.
first.
Okay. I think one of my favorite scenes was Lyndon is getting ready to advance, finally, and he is talking to the 8-man empire, to two of them, and he's like, "Hey, here's this bow," and they're like, "Oh, this is my bow," and then he's like, "Okay, well, here's this actual, real cool bow for you," and she just like tosses her bow to the side, and she's like, "Oh, this is the best thing I've ever had." And the guy that's with her is like, "Hey, you can't do that. That weapon has served you faithfully for years. I'm gonna take it and use this." And then he's like, "Oh, well, I have this other sword for you," and he's like, "Peace out, Bo. You're gone. I'm gonna
Yeah.
take this super weapon here."
Yeah.
And then all the other 8-man armies are like, "Hey, if you had a dagger, I would love that." They
Yeah.
just kind
You
of
got
like
a gift for
creeping in.
me? Yeah.
And I just thought that was super hilarious. Because he's getting ready to advance and he wants them to be the protectors to make sure there's no more monarchs. So it's just good.
One of the things I really liked about this book that I thought was good was the Eight-Man Empire. Like all of
Mm.
them. They
Yeah, it was
were
fun.
but they were the right amount of serious and funny,
Hmm.
kind of to be there to kind of like cast that, because in any other context they'd be way overpowered, but the context of this one they're like really the side character slash comic relief. But which
Mhm.
they did admirably. I thought
Yeah,
it was
I
really
thought so. I really like the training montage where Lyndon. I know. Eric doesn't like training montages. This is my favorite part where Lyndon comes by and he's like, "Okay, we're gonna go and steal this super duper cool treasure of some certain whatever quality." And then they're in different locations. They're on like the back of this huge sacred beast bird that's on fire and all this other fun stuff. And they're stealing stuff. And it's very cool. And I like that Lyndon got to steal a whole bunch of things and hoard things because that's what he loves to do most. And he got to help his friends doing it. And that was fun.
I like it.
so. I'll tell. So one of my favorite scenes, Soul just kind of hinted at it. Fury.
Was it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Fury is
Yeah,
a fun one. That was my next
Fury,
one.
Fury kind of coming back and just kind of like, all right, like now that I know that's referencing, and now that
Goku.
I've
It's
seen a couple,
Goku. Yeah.
I've seen some Dragon Ball Z, right? So
Yeah.
with my
Mhm.
son now, and I'm like, oh, okay, this is pretty cool. This is fun.
Yeah. To see him
This is
be
a
like,
lot of fun. Yeah,
he rescues him and then he's literally walking his buddy, his friend,
yeah.
past his allies and being like, don't fight these guys. They're a waste of time. They can't fight for anything. You want to fight anybody that's this level or above. And they're just probably looking at him and he's just keeping going. He's like, they're not even worth your time. Don't worry about them. And he just brings him out of there. It was
Yeah.
great. It was a
Yeah,
hilarious
it was
moment.
that was just a lot. And he's like, "Oh, you want to fight? Come on, let's go." It's like I have other stuff to do. He's like,
And he's like,
But do you
"Fine."
though? Fighting is
Yeah.
life.
So no. Anyways, favorite scene for sure.
That's a good one. All right, I'll
Yeah.
give you guys. I like this scene a lot. I can't say it's my favorite scene, but this was I thought a really good scene where Reagan Shen is dying, and he goes
Mhm.
into his pocket dimension where he has Tiberius the Remnant chained, and he turns into his lion form, and he's like, "I'm gonna die," but he's like, "Maybe I can survive," and then he dies, and his last thought is, "I'm a lion," and his remnant comes back as a man holding a wine glass. And I was like, "Oh, that's impactful," and it's just like he
Mhm.
was a lion, truthfully, but he had acted so much like a man that's what his remnant became, right? That was
Yeah,
his
his
real
nature.
that was his like his real self almost.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah, it was pretty
No,
good.
that's a good one. That's a good one.
Um,
Soul.
I did like, as cheesy as it is, I liked Lyndon giving his son the bowl of water and to test his son. I thought, that was cute. I liked it. And they didn't spend too much time on it too. It was a very small thing. And his parents are obviously super powered because they're talking to each other from, across the mansion that they live in. And they're not even in the same room because they know they can hear each other kind of thing. So it was fun to be like, this kid's gonna have some weird parents.
and Yaren's like, "Why do you have to do this? You're stupid. Don't do this test. Doesn't mean anything." And
Yeah.
Lyndon's like, "I just am gonna do it, okay? Like you
Yeah.
can't." Yeah, that was good.
Hmm. That was fun.
Osriel, Osriel meeting Lyndon again at the end.
Hmm.
That was a good scene.
I mean, just because it's like Osriel spent all this time. Like the whole purpose of all of this was for him to become a better person and to have somebody he can depend on, like be a brother. And
Yeah.
that's what Lyndon is at the end. It's like that's
Hmm.
his brother.
Yeah. And Yiren was warming up to him, but barely. And it took like 10 books. And then finally, but Lyndon had been warming up to Ethan a lot longer.
Well,
And
yeah, well,
yeah.
not well. There's a whole warming up part, but then there's also like there. It's implied, if not like outright stated, that if Lyndon's not at Osriel's power level now,
He's
he's going to
close,
be
yeah.
there pretty soon. Like he's
Yeah.
comparable, so he's an equal, which is something that Osriel has not had for millennia. So
Yeah.
Hmm.
That's very true. All right, I'll give you guys one of my final scenes. I did enjoy the epilogue scenes where they it shows each one of them going to a different world and fixing its problems. Yaren comes in and she's just like, "Okay, who am I going to kill?" And she's like, "Oh, it's this bad guy." And then, she kind of investigates a little bit and is like, "Oh, yep, he is the bad guy." And then she's like, "Okay, problem's done. He's dead. Go live your life. I'm peacing out of here." And, we're in the other girl's perspective who summoned her and she's like, "Oh, we can't send you back. Like, I can't help you here. Like, you're you're
You're
stuck,
stuck forever. It took us
and
10 years
and
to do this. No,
and
no,
Yara's
okay.
like, peace, I'm out of here. Just like zips away. And Mercy goes to each faction and she's like, okay, this is what you're going to do. And she's so joyful about it. And she's like, but don't make me come back. You don't want this to happen. And
Yeah.
then, and she's like, oh, self-replicating machines fail every time. I'm taking this away and you can't have it anymore. Just like a
What
mom to
made
a
you
kid
think
who's
this
like
was a
touching
good
something
idea? Yeah.
dangerous. Yeah.
That was a
And
good
still, I
scene.
don't remember his as much, but he goes in with his attitude and he does his stuff. And I just
Yeah.
like their different approaches to like solving these problems. I thought that was really nice.
Yeah. It was good. It was fun.
That leads to a least favorite scene of mine.
Oh,
What you're talking about.
okay.
What makes these guys different than the last executors?
Excuse
'Cause
me?
they're
They're
raised
a
by Ethan.
family.
Yeah. Because
That's it. I mean, that's
Ethan's thing was that everybody in the Abadan was always like against each other, even though they were working together, and that's why he wanted to create like you said, a family. So the only thing they got different besides their power levels, just like the Abadan, they were powerful too, is that he has people that are just they're a group and they want to work together, even though they literally split them apart for the sake of the story, so that they could each have their own world to help. But the goal was for them to work
well,
together because they're family.
I
But the
think
last executors worked together too before they were picked off one by one. Again, what is different?
I think the difference is the
Be like
circumstances
this
and
one.
the Abadan, because that the one judge Maciel is gone, and I think since he was so jealous of Ethan, he put pressure on them and caused them more to crack. Right? I don't like the executors; they're too powerful. They're not as good. They're not what I want. They're not me. And so he
Well, to be clear, the Abadan were they were the direct cause of the Mad King. I mean, they created the Mad King.
Right. No, and that's what I'm saying. I think they'll be past that now that Suriel and Osriel are back. They see, okay, Osriel left. Things got really bad. Now he's back. Okay, we like him. We realize his importance in the system. It's this might sound bad, but it's like a job that you don't think is a good job, right? But then if that job goes away or that thing goes away and you realize how much, how impactful it is, then when it comes back, it means more to you because you didn't have it. Does that make sense? So they
It
might
does,
treat
but
them better and just I think the other ones treated it as a job, whereas that's something that Lyndon and them they treat it like a job, but it's also their bonds, I guess.
what
I
proof
don't
do
know.
we have that what you say is going to happen? And I'm just asking this because Serial, for example, isn't the original Serial. She's a replacement. She's a
Yeah.
replacement Phoenix, right?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
There's going to be replacement Maciel, who's going to be pretty much like the current Maciel. I mean, because that's how it's been described to us, is that the judges eventually become the avatars of whatever it is they represent. So
Yeah.
I'm not sure. I,
Mm.
I I just have to have faith that my vision of the future is that they're going to be fine, and you
Yeah.
can't shake that, no matter how much
Yeah.
you try.
Sorry, Mr.
So
Curmudgeon. Yeah. No.
we are family. Okay, fine.
Yeah.
that's
Yeah.
basically
Yeah.
that's basically it. I think is they're going into it with more joy than the other ones. Yeah,
Hmm.
the other ones were dreary, and they were probably slaved too hard, but
Yeah. These are the
worked too
cool
hard.
executors. Okay. Like
And
they
and,
got someone who's got the joy icon. Like, what more
and
you
Lyndon
want out of
displays
them?
joy. How? What? When does Lyndon display joy?
He displays joy when he levels up and when he gets
Yeah.
points.
Hmm. And when he
That's
steals things.
that's all it is. You just have to make this a point system for Lyndon. Lyndon, every
Yeah.
system you bring back, 1,000 points.
And he's like,
Every
I'm on it. And he's already back. You're like, 1,000 points, please. Yeah.
yeah. I don't know. I don't have anything else to really bring up or talk about. I've gone through mine. But did you guys have anything else you wanted to discuss?
No, we hit it all unless we want to do like some final series things. All right, what do you got
Oh,
there?
two things
Just
there.
just
Hit us.
two small things.
Okay.
One, I do like how when Lyndon does go Waybound,
Hmm.
that he ends up somewhere completely different. That
Yeah.
he doesn't end up with Abaddon.
It's
So
a good
I
touch.
kind so I like that. Kind of like, yeah, you don't necessarily end up where you think you're going to end up, and this is maybe why some people don't end up where they should end up. So I like that. That was a nice touch. And then the other thing I didn't like is I was about 40 pages in, and I'm like, oh great, this first half of the book is going to be Ghostwater all over again. And I swear that what I wanted to do was I wanted to stop, send a little message on our group chat, and go, damn it, Soul. But
Yeah.
I
Ghost Water
refrained.
Part 2.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's funny.
And I know the line that did it for you too. It was when they named the place Ghost Wind Hall.
As soon as they said ghost, I'm like, I'm done. Like
You're out.
I saw that.
Yeah.
I remember that. I saw that. I put my iPad down.
Mhm.
I went out, grabbed my bike, went on a bike ride. I'm like, I'm done. I cannot do this right now. So
Yeah. No, it was good. It wasn't too much like any specific one book before it. Yeah,
so
so I
what are your
guess overall impressions, I loved it. This is not like, my favorite series of all time, but it's definitely in the top 10, mostly because of the themes of improvement and bettering yourself and I guess trying to stay humble. Yeah. Yeah.
books are fun? They're supposed to be fun, right?
This
Yeah,
is a
books
fun
are,
series.
like, sure, I gotta read a lot of stuff for work, which is serious and dry or whatever, or I gotta read, whatever. Like, there are a lot of times that you read for not fun, but like when you're reading for these books, like you're reading hopefully primarily for entertainment, right? And
Mhm.
then if you get some other stuff on top of it, even better. But if you're
Yeah.
having a good time, then the book has done its job. And you know, this series reminded me of quit trying to worry about like, oh, this is a great, the plot isn't super tight or the grammar isn't perfect. Whatever. It was a fun book. Let go and just enjoy it. So
Mhm. Trying to not get too nitpicky in the details, but just let it go through you.
exactly.
Yeah. I think I like this book a lot. I like the series a lot. I definitely think this book is slightly ahead of middle of the pack of this book. Maybe even slightly ahead of the middle of the pack of this book. Um, but every book has issues. This one had certain issues that were just a little bit more visible, I think so. But I don't have anything else to say. I liked it. It was fun. Thank you guys for reading it. Oh, Soul, what you got?
I got one last thing,
Okay, let's hear
and
it.
more series need to do bloopers because
Oh my God, yes.
it's hilarious and I love it. And I think it's a great way for the author to just have a little fun with something without totally demeaning their book or derailing it in a way that they didn't want to officially. Yeah, that's all.
I co-sign to that, and I'll just add just a little bit on top of it. It's really hard. It's obvious now. Like it's really hard for authors to write stuff that's funny. It's hard because humor is very specific, right?
Yeah,
So when you find an author who can do humor, that's a treasure, right? And Will White does humor well. He does,
yeah.
you know.
Mm-hmm.
So bloopers, whatever else comes into his imagination, I'm there for that. So.
Great. I love it too. You can't go wrong with a good blooper scene. I did classify that as a good blooper scene there, just for all you guys. There are some bad ones eventually somewhere, I'm sure, but I think that's everything we have to talk about. So, thanks everybody for listening. Thanks, Solution.
Hey, I'll see you
Thanks.
guys. It's hold on. I had this one ready. It's
Oh.
the end of an era.
Let's all groan in sympathy for Soul here.
Uh,
Thanks, Era, for participating and reading this series with us. We've loved having you.
No dad jokes for me. Thanks, guys.
Um, just to get things out of the way, of course, you can join us by joining the Patreon of the Legendarium. You can find us on their Discord. We're always welcome to have and talk to anybody about Cradle or other books that they're reading. Thanks to Horizon Brave for starting the podcast, and thanks to Craig for loaning us a part of his media empire. And we'll talk to you guys about the next book. We'll see you then.
see
Bye.
ya.